Good evening and welcome to Literature in 60 Minutes. I'm Zandile Pooe, and tonight we are talking to an author, yet again. His story is quite fascinating. His name is Linda Andeyende, and he has written a book titled Wake Up Woman, and his other book is also titled Dear Dr. L. But for today, we are just focusing on Wake Up Woman. It is just a book dedicated to some of the questions that we as women have concerning relationships, concerning why men do the things that they do, why we get treated in particular ways by the boyfriends or the husbands that we are with. And he has broken it and drilled it down to specifics, about the different questions that we have. And I'm looking forward to hearing all about his insight based on, his social media engagements, some of the commentary that he's extracted from his social media pages as responses from women about the questions and the positions that we have in society about our relationships, and we as women battling with certain elements of our relationship and how we can address those issues. So that interview is going to be so insightful. I hope you stay tuned. It's going to be quite a stretch, but I hope you will stick it out to the end and we will have a great and enjoyable time together. So please stay tuned. That interview is coming right up.
Exercising authority over all powers of the enemy. Gospel music power. Zoe Live Radio. Zoe Live Radio. The abundant life experience.
Okay, so welcome back. We are chatting to Linda Yende, and he is the author of Wake Up Woman and Dear Dr. L. But tonight we are talking particularly about Dear Wake Up Woman, and I've come across Mr. Yende from the socials, Facebook particularly, and I particularly enjoy his perspective on issues, social issues, relationship issues, and how he positions discussions on social media and how people respond to it. So I've invited him over for us to talk about his book. So thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Let's get right into it. So tell me the book, Wake Up Woman. First, the title. Why the title?
All right. Okay. You see, all right. I'm glad that you started with the title because the title itself can be controversial. I've seen people that it rubs the wrong way a bit, but they need to understand that first of all, the reason why it's singular is because I was talking to one person. I'm not speaking women in general. I'm not saying wake up women because that presupposes that women are fast asleep. But I'm actually saying I was having a conversation with a particular woman, and that particular woman could be whoever it is that's reading the book. To say, you know what, take a look at this, wake up to this matter. But the reality is where the title originally came from was out of my frustration. I used to have conversations with women, on social media, as I still do, like you've just mentioned. And somewhere along the way, it then became a thing where people send me inboxes to say, look, I'm going through ABC with my boyfriend. I'm going through ABC with my man. I've been with this guy for 7 years. Will he ever marry me or whatever? Yeah. That kind of. And sometimes I'd get so frustrated when people are clearly being taken for a ride and are ignoring it.
Yeah.
To the point where I wish I could grab this person by the shoulders and say, wake up, woman.
Yeah.
You're being played.
I see.
You're being played. Like, why are you so blind to this? So that's really where the title came from. It came from those moments where I wish I could grab somebody by the shoulders and say, wake up. Can't you see that there's no relationship here? You can't be referring to a guy as your boyfriend when you see him once every 3 months, but you live in the same town.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Women.
And when he shows up at 10 p.m., do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or 2 a.m. for that matter.
Yeah.
He shows up at the step. It's like, okay, he lucked out everywhere else, and now he's going to come try. He's like at your place, and you're going to refer to that guy as your boyfriend. That's not your boyfriend. So it was that kind of conversation, that kind of frustration that led to the title. So here I am having these conversations on Facebook, which then evolved into my first note that I wrote on Facebook. I wrote, you remember when Facebook used to have notes, just back in sort of
way back
2008? Yeah, way back, showing my age. I'm a Facebook ancestor.
You're like a veteran, yes. Ancestor is a better term, actually.
I was there right there with Mark, man, from day one.
Yeah.
So, you know, I put down this note because it was just something, it was an issue that had come up during the week. And I felt that I wanted to give it a thorough response. So I wrote it on a Sunday morning, put it there in notes, and the response from people the reaction was just mind-blowing. People really loved it. They responded to it. They all came with their own opinions as well. Because everything that I write, you know, I always try and make sure that I'm not sitting here and I'm saying my word is the be all and end all. Yeah. I open it up to be conversational. I open it up to spark a conversation so that we can then hear other opinions, so that people can interrogate their own views on the issue. Yeah. You know, I like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you now, I've said this many times, that with my social media platform, the number one thing that people enjoy is actually not so much the content, probably the content to a certain degree, obviously, but also the comments, the engagement.
Yeah.
You know, I created a platform where people are free to come in and speak their minds, and, you know, no fear of judgment, no fear of whatever. And people are very outspoken on my Facebook. I bring that out of people, and that's a gift. I'm actually proud of that.
It is
an amazing thing to be able to do. You know, where people almost forget that there's 36,000 other people who are able to see this comment because they're just talking to me.
Sure.
It's I call it the Oprah effect. And I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm anywhere near Oprah, but she's like that.
Yeah,
you know, she's the kind of person that you open up and forget that there's a TV camera in front of them and not feel violated and not feel taken advantage of. You know, it's not a Jerry Springer type of situation where you're taking advantage of somebody's misfortunes. Yes. But, you know, you just give them a free space to speak up and, you know, be comfortable. So that's where the book, that was the foundation. That was the foundation of the book. And I just carried on writing. 9 months later, I had a book.
Wow.
So,
sure.
We are.
It's quite extensive as well, because you have no less than 44 chapters in your book, even though you say they're quite brief. But I think that also speaks to the volume that can be discussed, the amount of topics that can be discussed under women and relationships. We really battle in this area. And I think a lot of us, because we have so much heart and I think so much hope and heart in finding the one, you know, for us, then we end up, you know, making these errors, trial and error, with very many relationships. And yeah, we actually end up being victims of very many things in relationships. But now I think let's start with the woman. And you first start with like a punchy subject. Why do men cheat? And I think that's so important because that is the question in most women's mind, at least those who've been cheated on. Why do men cheat?
You know, I'll tell you something. I want to give this a bit of background as well.
Yeah.
I want a bit of background. More often than not, when this question comes up, women are asking a man this question who has just cheated on him, on her.
Yes. Not a general.
So he's already on the back foot, because he's now basically being asked for honesty in a situation where he has wronged somebody. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's very rare that you sit down while having coffee and say, but why do men cheat? It's very rare. So as a result, men struggle to answer this question honestly. They struggle to answer it candidly because it's going to come back to bite them.
True. Okay.
So, I literally, when I started writing this, I was writing it almost in a reflective manner, where I was sitting there thinking, at times when I cheated, why did I do it? What was going through my mind? What was, and I had to sort of interrogate my state of mind. I had to interrogate probably what informs some of the values that I had.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that the central theme there became, it's an ego thing. It's an ego thing.
Wow. Okay.
There is, think about this. And I mean, this is here's somebody who's a total stranger to you. She walks past you, doesn't know you from a blade of grass. And you somehow manage to turn her into your biggest fan.
I see what you mean. Yes.
Can you imagine the ego
Trip.
boost that gives you
Yeah.
to say, here I am, little old me, and I managed to make this woman fall in love with me. I managed to make this woman agree to undress for me, or whatever the case might be. All of those things are ego driven. More so because, we grow up, and as you are growing up, there's a certain thing where, for example, there's a certain type of girl that you can't get while you're still at school because she's the hottest girl at school and you're not the most handsome boy at school, type of thing.
Yeah.
But suddenly, as you grow older, and I don't know, I suppose women are a little less superficial than they were in high school. Women are equally drawn to your personality. They're drawn to your mind. They're drawn to other things. All of a sudden, you find yourself attracting the kind of girl you never ever thought you would.
Yeah.
When you were younger.
Yeah, true.
But that coincides with the time when you've already settled down. You've already, got somebody by your side. Now, how do you get to flex this? How do you get to exercise this new found power that you've discovered? And because we are still those little boys at heart, the ego says, you know what, just try it once, you'll get away with it. Just try it once and no one will ever know.
Never find out.
Nobody will ever find out. And it's an interesting thing that somewhere along the way, it's never enough. It can never be enough. It can never, ever, ever be enough. It's like having money. I don't recall anybody ever saying, you know what,
I have
I've got
enough
too much
now.
money now.
And it's enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to make any more. I'm not going to make an effort even.
Please.
Yeah.
Stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that. As a matter of fact, the money thing is equally an ego thing at some point. Initially, it starts with, making money for survival, making money for the basics, but nobody needs 17 cars. Nobody needs 3 cars, if I'm honest.
True. The ego kicks in, and then everything else becomes about feeding the ego, that bottomless black hole that is the ego that is never satisfied with pretty much anything. Okay.
There we go. And
sense.
I'm gonna be predictable now, and I'm gonna give you the example of handbags and shoes.
Yeah.
If you walk past a storefront and there's a beautiful pair of shoes, you don't sit there and say, but I already have a pair of shoes.
True. Yeah.
You can never do that.
No. I can always have one more.
You can.
It'll match with something, and I already have the outfit in mind. Yeah. Mm.
As a matter of fact, that'll be the inspiration for the next handbag purchase now. To say, actually, it'll go well with these new shoes that I've bought. How many pairs of shoes do you have that you've probably never even worn that are still in their boxes? Mm. It was just you liked the idea of buying them more than even the idea of wearing them. It happens. Hmm. It's all tied up with that never enough kind of mindset.
But now I want to ask a question.
Sure.
And this is more along the whole mindset. I mean, the other day I watched a video and some woman openly was talking about the subject of African men in particular. And this is not an African problem, but we see it in the Western world as well, where men just cannot, like just by virtue of how they are made, have one woman, like period. That's not possible. And I want to poke holes into that whole theory, but I think I'd like to have your take on it. Like, do you think it's not humanly possible for any man to remain monogamous?
Oh no, that's silly. I mean, that would be a very silly assertion to make. And once again, I'm going to start with my money analogy.
Yeah.
And say that not all of us want to be Jeff Bezos.
Okay. In what sense? In the billionaire sense, or in the in his?
Start with the billionaire sense,
right.
and say, even though we say that there's never too much, there's no such thing as too much money. But the point is, there are people who are still working tirelessly, and I'm going to use the Jeff Bezos and the what's his name?
Okay.
The South African guy.
Oh, Motsepe.
No. The American guy who was born here.
What's his name? Tesla guy. Yes, him.
The Tesla guy. I mean, they just keep on working and working. Warren Buffett, he's damn near 100, and he's still working hard. He still gets up every morning. He goes to the office, and he's still investing, and he's still doing this, and he's still doing that. So, that has gone beyond mere survival. That has gone beyond wanting to provide for your family. That has gone beyond wanting
to make it,
all the things that,
because some people
that
want
currently
to make it. Yeah, and they have. I mean, according to us.
And those are the things that currently drive the rest of us.
Yeah, true.
And at some point, there are some of us who go, hey, I'm good. Now I'd like to travel the world. I'd like to, go on holiday six months in a year because I've worked hard and I can chill now.
Yeah, I've earned it. Yeah,
I've earned it. I'm good. I'm good. And then there are guys who go, listen, if I stop working, I'll die.
Sure.
Elon Musk, that's the name I was trying to remember. Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But I guess my point here is this, that we all wired differently.
True.
When it comes down to what drives us. There are some people who go, you know what? I've got an amazing life. I've got an amazing wife. Everything is all in place. I'm happy. Leave me alone. And I'm not even going to look. I'm not interested. Thank you, but no thank you, type of thing.
Yeah.
And there are people who are still out there looking left, right, and center, because that's one of the things that drives them. It's one of the things that fulfills them. It's one of the things that makes them, feel alive. And none of this has any attachment to culture or race.
True.
The culture or race now comes in when you speak about socialization, when you speak about nature versus nurture. There's certain things that you grow up. I've often heard this, that a a guy who grew up in a polygamous marriage is most likely to then go into polygamy as well. Because that's his normal.
Yes. That's how he was socialized. Yeah, true.
He grew up seeing this as normal. Like, he wants a big family. He wants 20 brothers and sisters because that is normal. For someone who grew up with one sibling, that's my normal.
Yeah. And 20 is overwhelming.
That's
20 siblings. Yeah. I see what you mean.
So socialization definitely does play a role. It definitely does. And if polygamy and large families and all of that, if you take a look, those are our things in the Black culture. Those are our things as in the Zulu culture, certainly. That's normal. That is a norm. It's actually quite interesting. I've only now had a proper glimpse into that life and into that lifestyle of polygamy and all of that. And I hear the conversations that happen about, well, I mean, I'm going to use the typical example of the show that we're always watching. Not Mnagwe too, but Utando Nestembu, where he's sitting there with his wives and talks about the fact that he doesn't have as many girlfriends as he used to have on the side. And I'm like...
Even though he has quite a few wives.
That's for what? And he says, but he's cut down on the girlfriends. Like, he still has them, but he's cut down. And that blew my mind. That blew my mind, because that kind of honesty can only happen probably in that environment. It's highly unlikely that a normal guy with one wife can sit there and say, well, you know what? I only have 3 girlfriends now. I don't have 5 like I used to. So give me some credit.
Sure.
It's an odd mindset to be in.
Yes.
It's an odd mindset. But the question then becomes, why is it odd? Or perhaps let me put it to you differently and say, would you rather he lies and says he doesn't have a girlfriend when he does?
No. I think we all expect honesty. We all want, not some level, but integrity. Like, someone must tell the truth. And I think the challenge with infidelity and cheating, it's that there is that perception that is given to you as the woman that we are exclusive and I am faithful. So I think some people, in the context of polygamy, there is a form of agreement. And agreement is always important, because when there's agreement, it manages expectation. Then I can't expect you to be honest when we have sat down and agreed that monogamy is not part of this deal. So it's a problem when it is not assumed, but very well articulated and even vowed, and then there's a breaking of those vows and those promises. And I think that's where the primary challenge could come from, is that the foundation needs to be very clear. If it's a polygamous or, an open marriage relationship, whatever, as long as it's explained and it is articulated from the beginning, so that I'm not over here expecting you to be faithful to me, because I'm also, being tempted on every side, but I am, on proper blocks, because I'm like, hey man, this is the foundation of our relationship. But then it's heartbreaking and absolutely traumatic when you find out that actually you are on your own on this one, even though you thought you were in agreement.
I get Can we just out of interest, can we interrogate the issue of you being tempted on a daily basis, hypothetically?
Yeah.
Can we just interrogate that issue and agree that you actually comparing apples with bananas here?
Yeah, we can.
Let me tell you why. I mean, from the moment you hit puberty, you've had guys hitting on you. That's a norm in your life.
Yeah, true.
That's a norm.
Yeah.
It's an absolute norm, and your value system has been keep them away, keep them away, keep them away, and occasionally you let one in.
Yeah.
What has been our modus operandi from the moment we hit puberty as guys? We trying to get in. We're the ones trying to get in. We're the ones trying to get in and being resisted at every turn.
Seldom do you come home with a catch. A lot of the time you go hunting and come back with nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So the programming is very different.
Okay, I see what you mean.
The programming is extremely different to the point where it's still such an odd thing for a woman to make the first move on a guy.
And it's not
we don't know how to
encouraged
react.
either. It's not encouraged either. Yeah, it isn't.
It's not. So when it does happen, we're not prepared for it.
Okay.
We're not equipped for it. How do you handle it? What do you say? How do you say no? My gosh, that's like saying no to money or to gold. What's wrong with you? It's odd.
Yeah.
It's a very strange new world that we find ourselves in whenever that happens. Very, very strange. So, and we're still on chapter 1.
Yeah, we are. It looks like this conversation needs to circulate around this. But I think it also speaks to a lot of the things that women go through. For instance, there's a chapter where you talk about, I think it's keep your cellulite. And body image. Pardon?
Love your cellulite.
Love your cellulite, yeah. So part of us as women is that we are very self-aware when it comes to our looks, more especially, or we may have more self-conscious and tend to suffer, possibly, I don't know, this is not a scientific fact, more from self confidence issues, because you I'm not this, I don't look like this, because there's also the media element of how we tend to view ourselves. We look at certain women and how they are positioned in the media, in the limelight, on the TVs that we see, the movies that we watch. And then we tend to sort of, put ourselves against those things and say, hey, this is the standard of beauty, right? And when you are either close or far from it, it also determines how you are received in society, to be honest, especially in the dating world. The girl who is either has the lightest skin, and the biggest curves, or whatever the case is, will tend to have more attention going her way versus the dark-skinned girl or the, tall and awkward girl, whatever it will be. There are these stereotype poster girl images that we have to contend with as women. And loving that cellulite is a progressive movement, man. Like, it takes time. It really takes time. And what's worse with us is that then you have children, like some of us do, and then your body goes into another level, into another plateau that you're not really, happy with. So then it's a constant evolution, but that also tends to not work in your favor more often than not. So loving our cellulite is a big, big thing for us. And sometimes we tend to blame why we are not being valued, and why a man is not faithful to us, because we don't look a certain way, or we don't level up to a certain standard of beauty.
Yeah. I touch on that quite a lot.
Yeah.
I touch on the fact the truth and the absolute reality is an overwhelming amount of women will actually start thinking, if I'm short and curvy and he cheats with a tall and thin girl, then, it's because I'm not short and curvy, I'm not tall and thin that he went and cheated.
Yeah.
When the reality is it could very easily have been the other way around and he would still have cheated. He could cheat on you with a woman that is your replica.
Which some men are known to do because they have a type.
Yeah, they have a type. Some have a type, and they stick to that type. So, you look at the girl and you think, I might as well be looking in the mirror. She is, but for him, she was still more appealing than me because she isn't me. She's new. So we really do need to get that mindset of, I could have been better. I could have been something better. We need to obliterate that because there really is no better. Better is just new in some cases.
Yeah. I like that. Better is new, because sometimes it doesn't mean that the pair of shoes that I have I'm buying is better than the other ones that I have. I just like this one for now. This particular pair is the one I want to buy and have and wear at this time. Okay.
Yeah. And your favorite that's sitting at home is still your favorite.
True.
You can buy 10 new pairs of shoes and still have the favorite be the one that you bought 5 years ago. It's still my favorite pair of shoes. Happens all the time. So, we do need to get rid of that mindset that says, he went after her because I'm not good enough. He went after her because I'm lacking something. However, having said that, I do need to add this caveat because it's important.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen a woman come out of a relationship and only after coming out of that relationship start looking after herself, taking care of herself. She starts going to the gym. She starts drinking better.
It happens a lot.
So the question begs to be asked, why couldn't you do that while you were still in the relationship? Because it means you stopped making the effort.
Yeah. True.
You stopped caring because you felt, hey, he's got me already. Why do I need to look good for him? So all of a sudden, you are trying to look good for new people out there. There's a phrase that says, what you did to get someone, you've got to keep doing to keep that person.
Yeah.
So, if you stop making an effort, then you do have to take part of the blame. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely.
You do then question yourself, what could you have done more? And once again, this applies to men too. We start not caring about our appearance. We start not, you put on the big belly and you, all of that. That's a problem. It's a problem. Because it's not as if she doesn't go out there, and while she's out there, she sees somebody that's very well put together, that smells good, that's whatever, and she thinks of this flea bag that she left at home, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
So the effort needs to be made.
Yeah.
From both sides. There's no doubt about it. Occasionally, just remember that you still need to be attracting this person that you're with.
And I think it also speaks to every level. It's not just on the level of the physical alone, because as a person, you are, you're growing as well. So the person that you were 5 years ago should not, absolutely not, in every facet, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. You should be a better version of yourself as time also progresses. So I think when there are periods of stagnation and maybe seasons where you abandon, the whole aesthetic thing, where you are not really into how you look, but you are maybe focusing in developing other areas of your life. Then, some some things, I think there's a rhythm. I think what I've realized about relationships and being married is that it's a rhythm thing. There are some seasons where this part is particularly pronounced and others are not, at the same level. But there also needs to be that consistent indication of growth that, yes, we have moved past this and we are moving towards something else, and maturity, most importantly. I think that's my take. It needs to be at
I
every
hear
level.
you. I hear you. I do think, though, that there are certain things that you don't neglect just because you are growing in another area.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. Because the reality, look, there'll always be an 80-20 principle. It exists.
True.
It's out there.
Yeah.
So, just don't go to the point where you are totally neglecting it to the point where that 20% just sticks out. Is so jarring that
I get
even
it.
making a minor effort in that area outshines you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Completely. You've got to still be there. You still be in the game, even in that area that's not your area of focus at the time. There's still got to be some kind of effort being made, even there. Because the reality is, it is possible to be a complete being. It really is. We don't just say, okay, well, I'm gonna stop shaving for a year because I'm writing a book.
Some people have done it, but yeah, I know. I completely agree, and I know what you mean. But I just think that also people are different, and certain things are important to us, but they're not important to the next person. So it's also important in a relationship context for you to understand you guys as a couple and understand the person that you're with. What is important to them? Because there are some people you absolutely cannot drop the ball in the looks department. It doesn't matter what's going on. You need to be well put together all the time, And if you're not that way inclined, your relationship will suffer, irrespective of the other things that may be going well in your life, because this area is very important to your partner. You also need to know those things in a relation. That's what discussions and being open in a relationship is about as well, is that tell me what you really want. Some relationships suffer when intimacy suffers, and they are, there's a period where you are pregnant or whatever it is, you are not into it as much as you were used to. And post-child issues that you may have may lead you to not be there. And there's a partner who that's a deal breaker for. I'm sorry. I need you to be at this level and never, recede in any way or die. There mustn't be a decline of any sort. So I think it depends, what's important to you and your partner, and knowing how to maintain or elevate the standard at any given time as well.
I want to touch on two things there. One is, okay, there's people who have a fear of confrontation.
Yes. Lots of people, especially when it comes to serious relationship topics. Yeah.
There we go. So they'll suffer in silence, and they'll just go, well, I'll just go get it elsewhere. And even at the point where they're being confronted about this, they fear confrontation. So they'd much rather just apologize and say, oh, I don't know why I did it, and hang their head in shame and walk away.
And do it again, because the issue hasn't been resolved.
hasn't been resolved at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Cop-out coping mechanisms that.
Well, you know what? It's like you said, it's a coping mechanism, and everybody has their own.
Yeah.
Has their own. So that's the one. The second thing is gone. I can't remember it now.
That's fine. That's fine. I think we've addressed in terms of looks and the physical appearance of a woman, and why we sometimes ascribe that as one of the key elements why a man decides to cheat, because you don't look a particular way, because she is better in one sense or another. But now what I want to talk about next, and this is very important, is women invest years into a relationship that is a dead end relationship, right? And there's this hope, that is persistent, even in the face of, this thing is not going to make it. But we've done that. And we've heard of these relationships, whether it's outside of marriage or inside a marriage, where someone can see that this thing is really, really not working out, especially from clear red flags and signs from the man that, look, I'm really not that into you anymore.
Or never been.
Yes, true.
Or never been.
Yeah, or never been.
Because, we often speak about these things as things that happened along the way, when in reality, sometimes people walk in eyes wide shut into it, from day one, knowing precisely what it's going to look like. And they kept thinking, I'll change him. I'll change things. I'll change, I'll
prove myself to him. That's a big one for us. Woo! I will prove my worth. I will show him that I can outdo every other woman that he's been with. That's a big trip for us. Yeah. Major trip.
I will buy his affection with love.
Yeah.
I will buy loyalty with love. I will buy, I'll make him change who he is with love. I'll just love him so much. I'll smother him with love. And also bearing in mind that sometimes the way that you're loving him is probably not even what he's looking for.
Yeah.
It's not even looking for. So, we all know this classic story of this woman who will go visit a guy for the weekend, and then she'll pull down the curtains, man, and she'll
turn that place into a home. Yeah. Yeah.
Doing this act of service, she wants him to see what his life would look like with her in it. She wants him to the house to feel warm and inviting. Meanwhile, the guy looks and says, okay, all right, I think my real girlfriend will enjoy this when she comes in on Monday.
Yeah.
And
messes the place up again, because she's not much of a cleaner, and she's not very much into acts of service.
Yeah. At all. She couldn't be bothered. She could. So, sometimes we really do kind of bargain with our hearts.
Yeah.
We use our hearts as bargaining chips, and it's the worst thing you could ever do, because you sitting there knowing very well that this guy is not where you are, and he's not where you would like him to be. But you know what? I'm going to use my heart. I'm going to give him my heart. And in the process, he'll eventually come around and give me his heart as well. It's the worst thing you could ever do. Absolute worst thing. And you see it all the time. We've just come from the weekend of the 24th of September. The stories that go up and down about that, and how people have been in a relationship with somebody for the longest time, and then suddenly the guy goes away for one weekend and he gets married to somebody else.
Yeah.
Reality is, this woman probably knew the red flags were there. She totally ignored them.
Yeah. She chose a lot of us choose to ignore them. They're there, they're blatant, they're in your face. And even this guy sometimes, he rubs it in your face. But because you want what you want, it always is a challenge. That.
Absolutely. Migrant labor is a thing in South Africa.
Yes.
Right. It's part of our history, and as such, it's kind of infiltrated into our lives now. There's a lot of people who will come from Limpopo and are working in Joburg. And he has his sweetheart that he was in love with when he moved from Limpopo and he came to Joburg. And he gets here and he can't live alone, so he finds a girlfriend here. So the girlfriend here takes comfort in the fact that they live together.
And he's always here. Presence to her means, fidelity and
always.
Having the upper hand in some way, which is not always true.
And she ignores the fact that once a month, without fail, he goes back home. Once a month, without fail, and he goes without her.
Yeah.
That's a sign, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah.
And you could be with him for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Sure.
And he has never, not once, gone home with you. There's something not right there. And then you get surprised when you see pictures on his WhatsApp and his friends congratulating him on social media on his wedding.
But also the brutality of that from you male compatriots, though. It's
it
like
is.
That. I think it's one of the most heartless things that a person can do to you. Is just
agreed.
Be in a relationship with you for the longest time and knowing that, you have an expectation of him. You want this thing to turn into some kind of long-term union. And then he pulls a surprise like that, because we don't want to be surprised like that. We like surprises as women, trust me, but not that kind. That's not the kind that we are into.
It's the absolute worst. It really is. And it's cruel. Very. It is cruel. Nobody who claims to love you could actually do something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a fear of awkwardness and fear of uncomfortable conversations and whatnot. And then there's this. This is something else completely.
Yeah, it's a whole other level, this one. But
I'll tell you what's interesting. I've heard, and I don't have the statistics, but I've heard that the guy comes back from this and he now makes this woman his side, who knows that he has a wife back at home.
And she forgives him.
So
more often than not.
Basically, she forgives him. That's my point, which is just unbelievable.
A whole other research study that needs to be thoroughly unpacked.
It takes us back to the fact that in her heart of hearts, she knew that there was somebody else.
Yeah. I think we sometimes, as a woman and someone who's been in a relationship that had, elements of cheating and whatever, right? So I think the challenge on my end, and I see it now in, hindsight, intrinsic sense of self-worth is a big thing. It starts with the physical. It also brings it down to your value as a woman, as a person. We tend to, babies in this term, when you want external validation from somebody and you want someone to say you are worth it, you are okay, you are enough. We want that, and it's a problem for us because the moment he comes back to you with some lie that, I don't know, some family responsibility or, I had to marry her because of X, Y, and Z, or, you don't understand, we've been together since high school, those kind of excuses, when you don't have a strong sense of self that, look, you know what, I'm the catch here, I'm the prize. So if you don't recognize what I'm about and what value I bring here, then boy, bye. We don't have that. So when you're not strong and rooted in to say, look, you can walk away and I'ma be okay. So not a lot of women have that. Not a lot of women have that. And I think in hindsight, looking back at my own situation, I was also like, yeah, self-worth wasn't high in my list of values at the time.
Oh, you've been there?
Yeah, I've been there. I done been there. I've lived long enough to I've lived not someone going to marry someone else, but someone have been in a long-term relationship when you find out that you are the one who's actually being cheated with, not on. I've been there. Yeah, because sometimes you think, oh, he's cheating on me, but no, he's cheating with you.
And you even go to the point of saying, look, I'm willing to forgive, but and he goes, no, but you don't understand. You're the one I'm cheating with.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah. So some will never come. I mean, this guy never came to the point of admitting that. But I could see, obviously, they've been together for longer. And, this relationship continued even after I left him and they subsequently got married. But I think the thing then becomes, are you willing to say, no, I will not be a part of this? And the reason behind why most women can't say no is because she thinks, who else is going to want me? Who else is going to love me better than this guy has, So you also have a limited mindset to say, if you are not with a guy who can meet or top this guy's sort of effort in a relationship, then you can't be with anybody else. And that's wrong. And that's what leads to a lot of women staying in relationships, even though they can see this is a dead end, this thing is not going to work. Sometimes we are not even compatible. We don't like each other in essence, but here we are. I'd like to stay with him if no one else will have me. I've also had some friends who struggled with that, and it's a big thing among us as women. Intrinsic sense of self-worth, that needs to be a big thing in your life, and you need to be self-assured enough to say anybody who does not want to have you and recognize you for the value that you bring, you're willing to let them walk away.
Look, I think it's interesting. I always hear the words invest when women speak about relationships. I hear them speak about investing.
Let's talk about that. Yes, it's something I haven't picked up, but yeah.
Just think about this, because when you go into an investment,
yes,
you one, you believed in it, obviously, but two, more importantly, you see the value dropping and you're thinking to yourself, but it could still go up.
Yeah.
It could still pick up. It could still get better. This investment mindset is what makes a lot of people find it hard to cut their losses and walk away.
True. Yes, you just reminded me of someone. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I've put in too much. All my life, all these years, most importantly, the years. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reality is, when you are at the end, where you've come from is furthest.
Oh, that's a great perspective. Yeah.
So stop looking there, because in another 5 years, where you are now is where you were 5 years ago. That's always the reality. So, do you want to sit there and add another 5 years to the amount of time that you've already put in, that you're already convincing yourself are the reason why you're staying? It's the worst thing you could ever do to yourself. Investment mentality is horrible, absolutely horrible when it comes to relationships.
But now I also want to talk about.
I want. Go.
Oh, I wanted to, when you were talking about investments, because I also want to distinguish between the types of relationships, because there's, we are dating, we are umjolo, and then we are married. So sometimes on which side is it okay to look at it like, okay, this is an investment, but it's one that's going down and I need to cut my losses? Because one relationship is like, okay, we are dating, I can find another prospect. And the other one is that you vowed to be with this person till death do us part, through the best and the worst, and. So how do you make that distinction between one, a normal, dating relationship, and two, a marriage relationship?
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up, because the reality is, in a dating relationship, what's happening there is you sitting there and you're both going, okay, hypothetically, you're beginning with the end in mind already.
Yes.
You as the woman, and you're saying, you know what, I'm dating because I'd like to eventually get married, right? I'm dating because I see this having prospects of getting me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got this timeline thing, which says the longer you stay, the further away you're going from your goal in reality.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because a person who is willing to sit with you nijola for 7 years is the kind of person who will rock up married to somebody else that they met a month ago. You were not quite it. There was definitely something missing, especially if there are no other impediments to you getting married. Sometimes there's impediments. Sometimes you started dating when you were in high school, or in varsity or whatever, or you still trying to build your careers, or whatever the case might be. Sometimes there are real impediments that exist.
Impediments, yeah. It's a lack of commitment. Sometimes it's just a lack of commitment. And I think impediments speak of external, outside consequences that are outside of your control. But
outside of your control.
A commitment phobe will have the money, will have everything, and you will get nothing from that person, irrespective of how much you try, how much you invest, as you put it, in time and resources. That relationship is just never quite going to get to where you want it to go. That goal you have of getting married to this person, if they have commitment phobia, it is definitely not going to happen. If especially the guy in the relationship, because we still live in these societies where there is an expectation that the guy should ask you to get married. We are not yet there where we get to decide, or it's a mutually agreed decision that, look, we are going to get married. So
my question is there a society where that has happened? Has anybody evolved to that point?
No.
If we're going to be honest.
No, not quite.
There's no evolved to that point. It's still very much in the hands of the man.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is actually quite a clear one. It's in our nature.
Yes.
See, more often than not, women are aspiring for marriage from a young age. They that's one of those things. It's there in their plans. Men surrender into marriage.
Oh,
they're like, all right,
come on,
I'm done playing. I'm done partying.
Sure.
7 days, or whatever the case might be. All right, okay, cool. I'm ready to give up my freedom, type of thing. It's that kind of mentality.
Yeah, true.
And I'm speaking about it from a mindset perspective more than it is based on reality, because the reality isn't that at all. I mean, if you have a marriage that you still need a holiday from, or a visa from, as the phrase goes, then it's the wrong marriage, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You've got to be in the kind of marriage where you continue being yourself, where you don't feel like you've given up your your entire being. You've given up things that truly matter to you to get married to this woman. So the most ideal situation really is where you can make a commitment and still be able to be yourself to a large extent. You know, you still you don't feel like it's a loss.
Yeah.
For you.
And settlement,
Settle.
like you settled. Yeah, like this is not the best, but I mean, it'll do.
Get la rein.
Yeah,
You know?
it'll do. Yeah.
No, that is not cool. It's not a good place to be. I'm telling you now, it fascinates me. I've had this conversation a few times with friends, where, you know, I've got friends who I'll be sitting with my wife, right? I'm sorry, I'll be sitting with them, and then I get a call, and I'm talking, and then when I'm done, they're like, "Ooh, who's that? Who's that?" I'm like, "That was my wife." They go, "You speak like that to your wife?"
Wow.
You know, because they're used to like seriousness when you're with the wife. You've got to sound like Ntataka Muntu. You know, you've got to say "Sawubona nkosikazi," type of thing. You know what I mean? You can't saying, "Hello, my baby," and whatever. And for me, that tells me that their marriage is a very serious place to be. It's a very stifling place because I know them. I know that the person is a playful person. He's a happy person. He's got a sense of humor. He's got whatever. But for some reason, it appears he doesn't show that side. He doesn't have that side when he's at home. When he's at home, he's husband. And for me, that tells me that that's actually the wrong kind of approach to marriage. And look, I mean, far be it for me to tell anybody how they should be doing their marriage and whatever, but your marriage should be your happy place. Excuse me, your marriage should be that place that you look forward to be at on a
when you're
daily
most
basis.
yourself, because it's your home.
Yeah.
You know, you this person is in your home, but also becomes your home as a human being, because you need to be sharing so much of yourself with them that they feel like home. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So, you know, I think we do need to be changing. I think we need to be changing how people view marriage. Marriage should not be a surrender. Marriage should not be all right, cool, I'm ready to do this now. Fine, let's get married. You know, type of thing. It really shouldn't. It shouldn't. We should look forward to the concept. We should look forward to, oh my God, I can't wait to find myself an awesome woman that I can settle down with and spend the rest of my life with, and we have lots of fun, and we become each other's best friends, and we are silly together, and we are stupid together, and we like each other. You touched on that, on the liking issue a bit earlier on, and I made a mental note that I want to come back to it. There's nothing more amazing than being in a relationship with somebody, being married to somebody that you like.
And you really like.
Oh,
yes, it's very different. It slaps different, as the social media streets will say. Yeah. It really does.
Really, really does. Like you just, you know, you sometimes you look at each other and you're like, what's the matter? You're so cool. You know, you're my girl, man. Like, we're good. We having fun in this life thing.
And that's something you cultivate. And I think my concern with having that is the brutal honesty sometimes that it takes. It doesn't always, you don't arrive at it sometimes, but it is a working, you know, that needs to happen in your relationship. There's a level of honesty that you guys need to get to, you know, for you to enjoy that, and a level of transparency, because sometimes I think some relationships also get tampered, or that kind of vibe gets tampered with things like infidelity, you know, things like someone not being transparent with you. Therefore, you know, you are on edge, and, you know, there's accusations and all of these things. So I think that environment also has, you know, a type of cultivation that needs to happen for you to enjoy it and to have the fruit of it being experienced in your relationship. Because if you have so many other things that are underlying issues in your relationship, it becomes hard to like the person because they lie to you. You don't like people who lie to you.
I'm intrigued by what you're saying because it kind of takes us a bit full circle back to where we came from. And I actually do like the idea of exploring that. I like the idea of exploring it. And I want to start it with your question that you asked me about monogamy being possible.
Yes.
Let alone being, a reality, so to speak. How do you achieve that with that backdrop? How do you achieve what we've just spoken about now with that backdrop? Because the reality is, it needs to be one of two things. Based on what we were talking about earlier, it needs to be one of two things. It needs to be the brutal honesty that we described, or it needs to go with a polygamous situation.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Get where I'm going with.
Yeah,
and I've thought about this. I've had a lot of sort of soul searches about it because who wants to be lied to? Nobody.
Yeah.
But equally, who wants to be told, okay, Kyako Sophie today, so I'll see you later? And let's not leave this to the male side only. Who wants to be told, Kilobona Steven Gajeko? I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to that whole thing. What is the agreement? The agreement establishes the basis, because if you went into it knowing that Sophie is there and you were like, babe, never mind Sophie and I will be the best of friends. Look, I love you and I'm taking you in with Sophie. Then when he says he's going to Sophie, then you've conditioned yourself that this is our situation. But, it's a different story when you've created one set of expectations and made one kind of commitment, but then you are trying to live contrary to it. I think that's where the challenge comes in. Yeah.
Those expectations are based on societal norm.
Yes.
It's what's done.
Yeah.
Those expectations are like, when you do you ever read the terms and conditions before you click on I agree?
I'm guilty of not doing that. Very guilty. Yeah.
Nobody does. But then if somebody then turns around and says, yeah, but you
consented to this. Yeah.
You consented. Yes, I did, because everybody does. That's the norm. That's what you do.
I see. That's a good analogy.
Nobody goes at those terms and conditions with a red pen and says, okay, but this one I might have a problem with. They don't.
And that's the major flaw. That's the major flaw in our relationships, because we want to invest time in quantity, but not in quality. Just to say that we've been together 5 years, but yes, in those 5 years, what was the substance of that period?
Out of those 5 were happy. I asked that question.
Yeah.
We've got to stop. There's a chapter there called Relationship Long Service Awards.
Yes, I saw that.
People almost want a plaque to put on their wall to say, hey, clock 10 years type of thing. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. But how many of those were happy?
Yes.
Are we just trying to break records? Are we just trying to
hang in there for dear life? Yeah.
to hang in there and get the gold watch? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, if you are miserable, that gold watch means nothing at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
It really
does.
It really. It's interesting. I think we really do need to relook how this relationship thing is done.
True.
There's a phrase that my wife uses a lot about making your relationship your own, making your marriage your own.
Yes. Do away
So
with expectations and societal norms that you were talking about. Yeah. Because it's killed a lot of marriages. Some men are traditional and they want you to do the traditional thing from Egubo or whatever. But it won't serve you here. It won't absolutely increase the quality of your relationship in any way. But because the norm is that, then it becomes like an obstacle and a hindrance to your joy, your peace, and your happiness in the home.
I want to tell a story, but I'm not sure. It might be a bit risque, but I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, please do.
Right. Years back, we've talked about this. My Facebook profile is a very sort of open environment. People say what they want. They say what they're going through. They're quite open about it. There's a woman who came onto the page and spoke about her sex life with her boyfriend, and she said, "Look, it is the dullest thing ever.
Ooh.
This guy insists on well, here's the thing. He insists on missionary and nothing else.
Ooh.
No foreplay. He's the kind of guy. If she says, "Come, let's,"
wham bam. Thank you, ma'am.
The position, you're like, why on earth would you want to do something like that? And I then discover that I actually know her boyfriend. He's a friend of mine, and I know the kinds of things he does with other girls that are not the madam.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's he does it all.
That's interesting.
That blew my mind because it says to me, there are guys who have a mentality that there's things I don't do at home that I do elsewhere.
Sure.
So I'll satisfy my urge to do those things out there and then get home and give my wife boring sex.
Sure, that's interesting. That's like a personality split thing where I'm this person here and I'm that person out there. Yeah, where is she gonna get it? Hey, like especially if she goes as far as to say we need to do something different. I'm bored over here. Let's explore. And I'm not necessarily looking for you to do things that Johnny used to do, but let's try and see how you and I can work together and do different things, and enjoy them at the same time. Oh, okay, sure.
That for me was like a bing moment. I was like, wow, that happens. It's a thing. And it happens. It's a thing. So it takes me, by the way, this was a segue to the why do women cheat conversation.
Yeah. Nice segue into it because they do cheat, some women.
Yeah.
And as inconspicuous as it is, it happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah. And I've got to say, my view has changed quite a bit between the time I wrote the book and now on that particular issue. Because at the time, I was still of the belief that, very rarely do women cheat. without provocation.
Oh, I like that one, because a lot of the time is like women's cheating as a consequence of. It is really oh yes, I like that one. Okay, sorry.
That opinion there, it has changed drastically since then.
Oh, sure.
Because honestly, women do cheat without provocation too. They really do. And they will go out there because they're looking for excitement. Because, there's just, because it excites them, because it's something different,
It's a
something
thrill.
new.
It's a thrill.
A thrill. Yeah. They're chasing a thrill, they're seeking a thrill. And, that very rarely gets spoken about because, society just kind of suppresses that in women, unfortunately. Women are not allowed to be sexual beings. They're not allowed to be sexually adventurous. They're not allowed to be sexually exploratory. And the reality is they are.
Yeah. I think biblically, when I think of, as a Christian, and when I think of a Christian character that I think of when it comes to cheating, is Potiphar's wife. Joseph went to prison because Potiphar's wife was like wanting some Joseph. And, and then, she wanted some of that. And then when she was rejected, she then decided that she's going to cry foul. But I see what you mean. It does happen. Women do unprovoked go and look for a thrill from themselves. And I think what the stereotype has made it look like is that also that men can't forgive women for cheating. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Listen.
Let's talk about that.
That's something I would love to actually in the book because it's something I've spoken about. I have spoken about quite a lot, and I got a lot of feedback from guys saying, "Oh yeah, true." There's men do definitely forgive, but it never gets spoken about. And because it never gets spoken about, you then, it's almost a source of shame for a guy to admit that he was cheated on.
Yeah.
He'll take it to his grave. And as a result, the narrative continues that women don't cheat as much as men do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they really do. The men don't speak. See, women have the license to go out there and cry on social media and cry on whatever and say, he cheated on me, the bastard.
Yeah.
And they'll get
support and sympathy, like, oh my gosh, and we revert back to our normal, societal stereotypes that men are dogs. That's why they keep doing things like this, and it's expected, for them to be so untamed and to run around wild like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll tell you now, like, we all know stories of, I'm gonna stick to celebrities just for as our yardstick here.
Yes.
The celebrity men who have been cheated on, we all know.
Yeah. Will Smith, guys. Sorry.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll speak of Smith because it's international, but there's others who are local where it just sort of blew up. It was all over the place because it's like, really? That's a thing. Yeah. It stands out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the amount of women who have come out, like, we forget because they're a norm.
Yeah.
It's a norm for a woman to speak about her experience of being cheated on. It's one of those things. It's life. Hey, no. So yeah, man. Guys do not want to talk about their experiences of being cheated on. They don't. It emasculates them. It makes them feel like they were less of a man.
Yeah.
He like he was the problem. He feels like he was lacking.
But that's
something.
the same feelings we experience. I'm the problem. And what's wrong with me as a woman? You know? So if there was a feminine equivalent for emasculation, we would also have that term where we feel like we are not women enough. What would make him step out on me? I mean, I'm this, I'm that, even though some may not be as strong in their identity like that. But it also takes away so much from us. So I think my question would be, how is it different for men? Because I can't speak for men.
There's the reason why there is no female equivalent to emasculation.
Why? What is that reason?
It's precisely this. It's the fact that there's so much attached to a man's masculinity. There's so much more attached to a man's masculinity. In fact, society has... Okay, let me put it to you slightly differently. If, as a woman, you go to your family and you say, he's cheating on me, what is the likely response that they'll give you?
Family meeting. Amadodanje.
These things happen. My grandfather and I thing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? It is that normal. If it were to ever happen the other way around, hey, Shazo.
Hey, yeah,
What?
Indeed.
He did what? With who? That's it. Leave.
And I think also as families, like especially the paternal side of the family. I don't think you'd be quite accepted as, makoti in the genuine sense anymore. There's gonna be a lot that falls through the cracks. But when it comes to men, they can somehow be restored. And
yes.
There comes a spirit of forgiveness that goes
both sides of the family when you think about it. Because a man go to the woman's family and say, look what your daughter done, and it's her they'll chastise. There's no doubt about it. They'll say we are stars, and
exactly.
So it then takes us back to the fact that because certain things have been normalized so much, because certain things have become almost accepted, the spotlight shines more on what a woman's cheating does to a man versus a man's cheating does to a woman. And you are right. You are totally correct that it has the same impact on the woman. She sits there and feels like, was I not enough? Did I not do what I had? But we there's so many things we've always got to remember. We've always got to remember that culturally, especially here in Southern Africa, culturally, a woman's pleasure sexually is not priority.
Yep. Yeah, and in many other cultures as well, Middle Eastern, up north in Africa as well. I think women,
I've heard some interesting things about places like Burundi and places like, where a woman's sexual pleasure is paramount.
It's annihilated even at a young age. They make sure. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that background that then says, how would she go out there looking for pleasure elsewhere? She's not supposed to be having pleasure here. She's supposed to be giving pleasure. That's all.
Oh, yes. There's also that, There's also that perception that our men grow up in, and especially because we are still very much that nation that sends young men to the mountain. So that also, bringing and sustaining that mindset in our communities to say that women are givers of pleasure, or you take pleasure from them, not even, it's given to you. And we see it by our rape statistics that some people choose to take without even asking. And it's very heartbreaking how we see that women are treated very much like second class, not even citizens, but human beings, And it manifests itself sometimes in how our relationships play out. And to a large extent, because if you are fortunate enough to have someone who is converted, who is a liberal, who thinks, the things that I grew up seeing my mother do are not necessarily the things that I want to see my wife do, and to instill in my own children that this is how a wife behaves. This is how you treat a man in the confines of strict traditional customs, and not necessarily, the things that work on a relational basis and that work together to help the love movement grow. Because I think we are not really people that are seeped in love. We are seeped in this is how things are done. Sometimes we only want to get married because of the customary stock standard, either if you're religious, perspective that I need to have a husband or a wife because that's what the Bible says, or that's what society says. But what will you allow your love to lead you to do? Are you going to allow your love to make you choose someone, that you are going to love faithfully your whole life, for you to build a family with, for you to build a legacy with, because you're being led by love. You are saying to yourself that I want to do all these things because I love this person, and my love will manifest itself in these ways. So we choose these things that really have proven that they are very ineffective a lot of the time, that have broken our hearts and led to the brokenness of many families and the society that we find ourselves in.
Sure.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
Okay. I think what I would like to close off with, tell us.
Chapters.
Tell us about, I know, right? So I think you and I must have like one of those Josh Rogan interviews where we like have a 3-4 hour interview and we just go at it and talk about everything and anything, especially when it comes to relationship. But what I want to close out with is that we are in a society that is slowly changing and progressing to the advancement of the girl child, right? So she is becoming more and more liberated. She is becoming more economically empowered. She is just, her wings are starting to take her to heights never before seen. So the boy child on the other end is not quite being groomed and taking the same trajectory, if I can put it that way. There are still very much things in our homes, that we teach our boy children, that we see it in society at the level of rape, the level of gender-based violence, the level of just men also, not building societies that are functional societies, So the girl child is being empowered, but the male child is not catching up. How do we manage relationships? Because with women now, we see it, there's become, some call it the power balance that's tipping over. But I don't want to particularly, see it as that. I want to look at it as, I am that woman who's earning more than my husband, or I am that girl who has more degrees, more this than, my male counterparts, especially in the generation that we are growing up in. How do we relate? How do we find that balance of having fruitful, flourishing, fulfilling relationships, even when the social construct has changed?
We are going to have a massive problem. It's already there.
Yeah.
And it starts with this. We are so reactive rather than proactive how we do these things. So we sat there, 27 years ago, and we said, look, there's been a bias in the workplace. There's been a bias towards, men against women.
Yeah.
So how do we address this? Let's focus on women now. Let's focus on bringing up girls who will be in leadership roles. You go to the workplace right now, and 8 out of 10 of the new recruits are girls. And you're thinking, were there only girls in your class?
Yep.
Do you get what I'm saying? And I mean, I'm sort of thumb sucking my figure, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was at an insurance company yesterday, and I saw it with my own. There's just predominantly young women there, and they're clearly being groomed to sort of go up in the system and eventually get to leadership roles, because we want more female leaders.
We need more female leaders.
We need more female, but the total lack of balance there, because now all of a sudden it means in 20 years' time, we're going to have to redo the process now, looking for male leaders, because there are none.
Yeah.
And there will come. So that's the one problem. But now it also then says, who are these women going to be in relationships with?
That's my thing. That's my big thing right now about it.
Because they have no peers, so to speak. There are no guys their age who are also, the right, who are ticking the right boxes. There are no guys who are, have a stable job, has their own place, has their own car and whatever. All these things that they're looking for. They end up finding those things in older guys. They end up finding those things in married guys. Because they'll think that over a guy who there's a joke that I always see. It's a little meme that always says, you don't want to date a guy who is living at home with his mom, but you will date a guy that's living at home with his husband, with his wife.
Yeah.
And such is the reality. So there's a big deconstruct happening.
Yeah.
Like the whole system is just kind of falling apart because of that. The system is just being obliterated. Guys are turning to crime. Yeah. Young men are turning to crime. Young men are turning to nyaupe. If you take a look at the vast majority of nyaupe and wunga edits and all of that, they're guys. Yeah. They're boys.
Yeah. Young boys,
and it's
young men who are the future of the guys that should be getting married, should be building up the next generation. It's heartbreaking, sure.
And so, who are our girls going to be getting married to? Who are our daughters going to be married?
Yeah, major concern that.
There's going to be a huge gap. Like, I always hear. Women. I mean, a big part of my audience is ladies, and they're going, "Where are the guys
now already?" And I'm talking about the coming generation of men, because we see this program is in full effect now of empowering the girl child. But there's just been, an imbalance in also trying to empower the boy child. So that, because we're relational beings, we can't just think in terms of accomplishments and, building corporations. We can't just think like that. We also need to think of what is the next generation of young men looking like. Are we wanting them as our sons-in-law? Are we wanting them, to be part of our communities? Are we always going to be getting our girls at campuses raped, even though they're trying to get an education? But now she's got trauma alongside, trying to accomplish something notable with her life, because there is some boy out there who didn't get the right opportunities, who fell into misfortune, and now, he's also become, our girls end up being collateral damage, even though we are trying to raise them up, to empower them, and to give them everything that they deserve, rightfully so. But how are we, balancing the scales? I think that's just the big thing for me. It's something that as a society we need to think about. We need to be active as parents, as cousins, family members. When we see our young men who are really not getting access to opportunities, we are really shooting ourselves in the foot by building up the next generation of men, because whether we like it or not, they are the seed bearers. And no matter how much we like it as women to say, hey, I can be independent, I can do these things for myself, you cannot give yourself seed. And life is just not fashioned that way. But it's not
how it works. It's not how it works. We're gonna have we need to actually be already right now. We need to be shifting a bit of the focus. Some people need to be paying attention to the boy child. People need to be making the effort to guide young men in order for them to be good husbands for the foreseeable future. Because already, having said that, I don't recall a time where guys were actually being taught how to be good husbands.
Never has that been an era of that nature. Never, ever.
The focus has never been on, this is what
grooming up the woman.
You need to.
Yes.
So that needs to happen with urgency.
Yeah. I think as a social project, that is one of the most important ones that we need to focus on as a social project. We've done well, and I give kudos to every single person who has recognized the plight of the girl child and wanting to change that. However, we cannot tip the scales. We need to try and make sure that, because we are relational beings, relationships and families must come first before material success and any kind of prosperity that we think we want to experience in this life. But sure, thank you so much. This has been so amazing, so insightful. There's so much more. We need to have that 3-hour discussion. Hopefully, the audience will indulge us for 3 hours.
It's good to just break them up like this, though. Just have a few of them, but sort of, just so the energy level stays there. We keep it punchy. It doesn't get to a point where, I'm exhausted. I tire very easily. I'm old.
I'm happy I kept you engaged and, on point this long. My show is called Literature in 60 Minutes, but today, for the first time ever, I'm having literature in 90 minutes. So thank you so much, Mr. Yende. You are a groundbreaker, and you've broken ground here. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the insight that you've shared. And I look forward to hearing some of your audiences tell us what they thought of our discussion. That was going to be so insightful. But thank you, and thank you again. I look forward to having you again soon to talk about Dear Dr. L. If we don't choose to go into this book a whole lot into more depth.
No, definitely. I'm in anytime at all.
All right. And now you can tell people how they can get a hold of you. I know you have a huge Facebook following and a Facebook page, but how can they order your book?
Okay, I think the best way will always be just via my social media. I'm available literally on every platform. Linda Andeyende on Facebook, and then Linda Yende everywhere else. But you get the book directly from me. I self-published, and I courier literally everywhere in the country. Within 2 or 3 days, it's there. Wake Up Woman is 150 and Dear Uncle L is 200 rands. And I'm very much on the ball, babe. If you get hold of me, you'll get the book.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Next up, I'm going to be closing out with you guys, so please stay tuned.
This is the house of inspiration, praise, and worship. Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience. Zoe Live Radio, the abundant life experience.
Welcome back. Sure, that was, I think, like I was saying to Linda, I think this show should be dubbed Literature in 90 Minutes because that was quite the lengthy discussion, but ever so fascinating and interesting. And I think we as women have some kind of accountability that we need to assume in how our relationships or what the outcomes that we have in the relationships that we go into and that we stay in sometimes. We need to also look at things from a different lens as to what is our part and how far can we possibly go without compromising ourselves. But yeah, I hope you get the book to hear about more chapters. Like I said, the book has 44 chapters and we only, I think, managed to cover about 3 of them. So I hope to have him back on the show to expound and to go more in depth into all the other areas that he has covered and addressed. But for tonight, that's it from me. I hope you'll have a fruitful week. May God bless you.